Welcome. Once again, we have one of our amazing Tiny Habits coaches that I'm having a conversation with today, and I'm really excited for you to get to know Grace. Grace Bell has 30 years of experience as a therapist. She's also certified in Byron Katie's work, and she's one of our Tiny Habits certified coaches. She's been with us for quite a while. But what I'm most excited to explore with you, Grace, is your eating peace program. I'll let you elaborate on that a little bit more, but tell us a little bit more about you, what you do, and who are the clients that you work with.
Yeah. Oh, well, I love you asked about that. That's where I've used the tiny habits by far the most is in the eating peace programs that I do. And it's very meaningful to me because I myself suffered from like kind of obsessive eating, even have a full blown eating disorder when I was like a teenager, end of teenage years, kind of entering into college. And I just felt like I spent my entire, like a decade of my he's suffering from that, and then going to therapy and doing all the things and learning a lot, many different steps along the way that were very helpful. But it's very meaningful for me to support people and help people. And I did it mostly as like a therapist and using self inquiry, which is very, very powerful. But I always felt like there was this missing piece. There's this missing, like people would kind of like relax and then understand way more emotionally about their experience and have some shifts or changes or feel way more peaceful with food or eating. But then if they actually needed to lose weight and kind of make clear behavior changes, there was more people that didn't do it. Some would, but there was more people that didn't necessarily, depending on their situation. And then I came across the, Tiny Habits book. I'm like, tiny, I really like that word, like that it's not this big. I kind of heard of other habit, kind of planning and I don't know, organized and structured ways to do behavior change in a way, but not like that. And I knew that was the perfect thing because it was with great ease and also finding your own way with it. And that somehow I could, have these both interact with each other, like being able to actually make a shift when you feel safe enough. Because I mean, I work with a lot of people that even would say eating disorder or eating like, just obsessive, lots of emotional eating. Maybe all off balance eating is kind of habitual or emotional. I don't know, but they'd be really upset by it. And so how to kind of bring in some kind of way of being with that was different. And so I started using it there and people really liked it. It's really effective. It like just was the perfect, stool leg for like doing the emotional therapeutic work and then having this also. So yeah, I love using it in groups and I'd say my main focus in my therapeutic practice and has been for a long time is I do work with people solo, but I also really love groups because that was so powerful for me. In my 20s, I found like a therapy group instead of just a therapist. And that was very transformational for me because it was like learning how to actually deal with other people, like respond to them clearly and feel the emotions that come up when you have relationships. And when you get triggered out in the world, it like that could happen kind of in a group a little bit. And so I loved learning that and how that related to me having this emotional eating thing that I did and kind of like settle down and learn how to feel safe and trust life and not feel so isolated. So I feel like people when I work with people in a group, they get that too. They get the sense of, all these people sharing together, which is sometimes kind of scary, but then that actually allows people to work with the things that come up, kind of navigating life and being in the world. I really love groups. So I bring it into the groups. I teach them how to find a tiny habit and see what it is and often like make it tinier when
Yeah.
they have lots of ideas about how big the change needs to be. And yeah, so it's very meaningful and very great. And just like to see the willingness to try not have it be a failure if they're like notice that they've given themselves like a new habit, a new behavior, new response, and then they don't do it, that's just me. It's just information, data. They don't have to have big, "Oh, I'm failing," we look at that a lot, and then just to see, well, what needs to be adjusted and what's going on there. I kind of love having a, therapeutic background because of the emotional and relationship connection to, like it's, I feel like, there's so much in any kind of, like, off balance behavior. I call it off balance behavior, addiction, compulsion, all the things that human beings do. Like, there's a movement of avoiding, like, I want to get away from that thing over here, whatever's just been triggered or startled or something in me. I kind of want to get away from, or my thinking about it. I'm ruminating about something that's been happening. I want to get away from it and, like, go over here to something pleasurable or just change the channel on life, whether it's eating or drinking or all the things, screening, and
Numbing ourselves.
numbing, perfect, yes, avoiding numbing, and I feel like it's very important to wonder what I'm numbing myself from. So there's an exploration in that I like doing with people. That was been important for me, but not be, like, major pressure about it. Like, we don't have to force anything to happen, but just to notice and watch, what am I numbing myself from? See what the defensive patterns I have around life are. And then I might be able to get a tiny habit in there about that, which is, like, fast, but, like, immediate. So I have safety. I just feel safety in a moment. I'm like, oh, here goes. I'm feeling it in my body. I'm doing the thing. I feel like that person just looked at me funny. Uh-oh, or my boss did, or my mother did, or, something like that. And I'm feeling it. I'm familiar with this instead of panicking and having to escape. Like, "Ooh, now I think I'll go eat some food." Instead, it's like I can be with that and trust that I can work with it. Trust that I can work with it. Yeah. Yeah.
I love the fact that you're using tiny habits in a group setting, because I feel like groups are very powerful. And oftentimes in the tiny habits method, a lot of our coaches don't really realize the power of a group. And I'm trying to help them understand that. But explain to me a little bit more how you use tiny habits in a group type of setting and coaching in that way.
Yeah, well, it's so powerful. So I might teach the tiny habits method, behavior change. And it makes sense to people because it's just so simple and it's been put so well. I love BJ's explanation and kind of how that looks. And then have people consider. I actually, at the very beginning of any of the eating peace groups, I give people one tiny habit and they can adjust it in their own words if they want to. And that is, when I feel any kind of like urge or discomfort, or it doesn't even have to be that I'm already in a craving or something like that, but just when I have that, I say, or maybe they do it once a day, like after they go to the bathroom, or something like that. I've helped them find their anchor, and I say, "I have what it takes. I have what it takes." And people really like that, because at first they're not even sure, "What do I say? I don't know how to make a tiny habit." But I feel like there's some idea when you're working with, like, addictive kind of processes, people think, "Maybe I'm broken." Yeah. "Maybe this isn't I can't learn this. I've been trying to learn this for decades." I've always had a how many times I've heard people say, "I've had such an eating problem." And also in groups, when people share that, there'll be people that are a little more open for speaking up, or they just are like, I'm gonna get what I came for here. I wanna make take advantage." And there's some people that are really holding back and quiet, which would have been me long ago. But the people that are just listening, who don't feel like they can speak, they're present and they're on the screen and they're in the group. If when we do when I'm doing a Zoom group, I have retreats too. So, but they show up and they're there and they're listening, and they might hear me. Other people will ask questions and they will hear the dialogue and be a kind of a part of it. And if they have another question, they can ask. But they receive so much just by being in the group. It just helps the whole, and the full range of human experience. Is like the really quiet introverted that are so nervous that they just want to be super withdrawn. Maybe they're going to have a tiny habit about, like, speaking up. That would have been me. And it's very, very, just to be seen and show up in a group is scary for some people, and that's very powerful. And then the people that are, like, on the other end, that are like, wanna talk all the time, they can actually sort of realize it's okay to just relax and listen. I don't have to be always the one talking. There's always the full range, and they might learn things about, not needing to speak up every single time. or and it's just great because it's like we're all together in this. We're all part of people have their different propensities, the individuals, but collected together um, we can learn and get support from each other. So I love it. I think it's great to have a group.
Yeah, I do too, because at least for me, when I've been in groups and also when I've led groups, it helps me feel like I'm not alone in this challenge.
Yes.
It's a
Yeah.
shared challenge that there's others that are in there too.
Yes, that is I hear that over and over again. People will say, I might even have like check-ins where each we hear from each person and I call on them so that they just get to have a voice around something, if they normally wouldn't volunteer. And they'll say over and over, it's so helpful to hear other people's check-ins. Wow. Like so the shame, it just drops shame. It just dissolves it
Mm.
out of the like maybe what we're doing isn't it looks difficult, it feels like self-destructive, but maybe there's something constructive in it. Maybe there's something about it that just looks this way, but it's got a message for us and it's trying to help, and it's not, we're not like broken. We're not broken. Yeah.
I love what you just said, that we're not broken. Because I think even, I well, as we're talking, I'm reflecting on some of my relationships with food, and I think we have complicated relationships with food. I know I'm a stress eater. And
Yes.
I knew that for a long time, but it took me a little while to really figure out how to combat that. And I felt broken when I kept feeling like, every time and I'm always in stressful situations, and I'd go to the chips, I'd go to the salty foods, I'd go to those snacks that were soothing to me
Yes.
until I really learned how to actually make what I saw a weakness be a strength and to change that. How have you seen that with some of your clients? How have you helped them navigate that?
Yes, that's fantastic, because I think that's just such a key right there. People will think, that can't be a strength, it's a weakness. I'm sure it's a weakness. Oh, this is something I have to fight, like, I have to crush this or get this out of here, or I don't like it, I have resistance to it, and it's amazing to say, "Well, what if it was a strength? What if there's something in you that's, like, just trying to get to, like, sort of solid ground or, like, safety or comfort or peace, like in the middle of stress, like just to remember that peace is possible here. And that makes sense to people. And I will sometimes guide people well in the Eating Peace program through seeing where like the common places people that this kind of like a spark, like lighting a match of craving happens. It's unique for people, but it's also they're not uncommon. It's like when they feel strong emotions of like either fear or anger or powerless about something or empty. So I named that APE. A is for angry or afraid, those two things. P is for powerless and E is for empty. Just and empty can be like bored, I don't know what to do. My life doesn't have meaning. I don't know, like sort of blase. So that can have a kind of I need something, to spice up the evening or whatever. I need entertainment. I need entertainment. And it is complicated because all those things are quite different and it's shown up
Yeah,
differently
they
for
are.
different people. But I think it's great for people to even just when they open up to it, like a client recently as part of a group who's been noticing she's had a lot of abandonment in her life. And so she was talking about abandonment being this when she feels criticized or like somebody is about to like sort of reject her. That's what she's nervous about. It's almost like a like your lizard brain part of the system is just going like and she might have an interaction with the person and then feel like eating like right as soon as she gets alone, let me go eat some food like a bunch of sugar or something, the soothing things. And so she's connected those, that fear of a rejection, she has some fear and then she wants to kind of it'll be like I gotta settle
Yeah.
down, eat some food. And as she sees that, it's because like the gap is growing between the immediate, let's just eat and I don't even know why I'm eating, I'm just eating food. But as she's seen that there's something going on prior to the urge coming in, the system, your internal system there. She's like looking at tiny habits that can that's where she is right now, is thinking about tiny habits that can help restore connection. Like I'm connect. It's okay if somebody says something that sounds mean to me, or critical. I'm safe, and we
Yeah.
haven't abandoned. Yeah.
What an important skill to help people develop, especially in those situations that are triggering. And for lack of a better word, they are they are triggering
Yes.
and helping them feel that they have the behaviors and the skills to combat those triggering.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's huge.
Do you have some examples of specific tiny habit recipes that you help clients implement in those kinds of situations?
Let's see. That is a very good question. So if I'm thinking about what we've done, so this same client, she at first had some specific things that were really clear to her that were just about the food. I really love, like, just noticing the movement into the kitchen, the movement to go eat the food,
Mm,
alone, and the first thing was just instead of grabbing boxes and bags and, like, standing in front of the refrigerator and pulling things right out of the fridge, that she just had to put things in a bowl or a dish or, like, on a plate or something. Like, that was the smallest thing. She could still eat it. Like, we're not saying we're gonna figure out how to make sure you don't eat it, we're trusting, like, this eating process has come along for very good reasons, and some part of us is it's kind of unconsciously happening in here, and we maybe don't even wanna see all the reasons, that it's happening. But first, just to kind of get slow it down and put it in a bowl, and that she could do. So I remember that's where she started, and and she could do it, and she would just notice it kind of shift something behavior. Then she could also think about what just happened. Like, what do I need? Hand on heart, what do I need? It didn't even go that far. It was hand on heart, deep breath, because a breath can, it helps calm the nervous system. I mean, that's what they always say, if you're in shock, take a deep breath, take 3 deep breaths. So just hand on heart, deep breath. And then what do I need? And what do and just see what comes and trust that there will be something that appears, that you'll know what you need. And it's okay if you don't know. But I feel like that's that kind of thing. These are little things when I look back at my own experience. I didn't know that tiny habits, but it felt like it had to be safe enough to relax my usual habit, and it wasn't, and how to do it without like lots of forcing or control or really rigid food plan. Or I knew there was some way, like I like the term putting this habit, the habit that you don't want, putting this habit out of a job. I want to put it out of a job. Don't you love that?
I like that too. I haven't heard that before. I like that.
Yes.
I might
I
steal that
learned
from
that
you.
from a therapist a long time ago. It's like, I wanna put this out of a job. So I need something else to fill in. Like, if all the jobs are, that we have lots of
Mhm.
jobs for what needs to be done, well, something you can't just take this out. It's just like the person, this happens in drinking too, and other, if you just take the drugs away and take the drink out and do nothing else to change the psyche and kind of how you're just gonna be maybe emotionally even in a worse situation, in
Yeah,
some
there's
ways.
a void that's
Yes,
created.
yes, yes. So it needs to be like, what do I really need right now? Or some kind of sense of self-trust. I might help people form a habit where they're just very quickly reminding themselves, like, feel your feet, because it moves, like, you're kind of up here, and just go down into your feet, rooted on the ground, like there's no wind blowing me over right now. It feels like that when you're in a craving rush. And but if you feel your feet, just boom, immediately feel the feet and where they are as you standing in the kitchen. There's something about that that is just remembers rooted, and it has to be quick because all the craving mechanisms are very fast as well. It's just short, very short and sweet.
Well, I love how you just explained that you've helped your clients create sort of a self check-in when they're feeling
Yes.
those cravings and just really because I know when I am stress eating, I end up with my hand in a bag of chips before I even know it.
Yes.
But, having that self check-in first and about 2 years ago when I realized that, okay, this is not a healthy behavior, I need to, mitigate this behavior. I did similar to what you're teaching, and I'm so glad because you're just, validating where I sort of went naturally. When I wanted to go eat something, and my snack when I crave is something salty. It's like I started recognizing that I had that craving, and then I'd ask myself, okay, why am I feeling stressed right now? And
Nice.
help me evaluate, yeah, why am I feeling like this right now? And then if I wanted to go eat that salty snack, fine. But at least I did a self check in. Why am I feeling stressed? And then sometimes I'd ask myself, is there a better way to manage the stress?
Yeah.
And other
Yeah.
times it's like, yeah, go out for a walk. Just go out the door for a walk or go take a fresh breath outside. And that would pattern interrupt my bad
Yeah.
habit of snacking. But then other times it would give me the opportunity to say, do I want that potato chip right now? Or is that really what's going to satisfy this? And if the answer is yes, then fine. I gave myself permission to do that. But most often the answer is no, I don't really want to do that because afterwards I'm going to say, I'm going to feel like a failure or I'm going to guilt myself as to why did I do that? Why did I just
Yeah.
eat that whole bag of chips or that whole bowl of chips? Why did I just do that?
Yes. Right.
And then
Yeah.
it's sort of like, and I'm sure you're seeing this with your clients as well. It's sort of like a downward spiral of negativity
Boy.
and shame and guilt. So,
Yes.
when you have clients that are in that spiral, how do you help them raise that back out of that?
Well, I love that you did that. It's okay that I do it. There's something about I call that the sin, guilt, punishment cycle. It's I'm guilty. I need to be punished and it doesn't, like, oh God, it's very painful. And so sometimes because it's all such a quick, it's like, it's like a loop
Yeah.
that just like a the amusement park, roller coaster loop. It would be going, it's really fast. And you're all of a sudden, we just start with, because what people do have is they have a lot of self criticism or that guilt, or like, God, what's wrong with me? And so just starting there, looking at that, like with that, I have what it takes, but then what they can believe, because sometimes the harsh critic is very harsh in there, that this is, I'm okay right now, this will pass. If I had a big binge, I've sometimes said to people, just remember, it's only 24 hours from now. You will feel so much better. That's all it takes, after a big, huge overeat. That's not very long in the big scheme of things in life. It's just 24 hours. So just, relax. And it's like a form of what can I do to remember can love myself here. I sometimes like to do parts work with there's a part that comes in that's very harsh and has all the rule books and just tells you about everything that you did wrong, and it's in there,
Yeah.
that manager trying to help the whole system. And in internal family systems and therapy, they call the eater is the firefighter. I just think that's such a great visual. It's like, firefighters run in, they have a gigantic hose and it just goes spraying everywhere. And like just to get the fire out. And it doesn't matter if it hurts the house, like things are ruined. It doesn't matter. And so there's some sort of just to see the wisdom in that instead of like, this is insane, something so wrong, that there's something that wants to just put the fire out, and then the critic will step in and go, everything you did wrong and you feel so bad. And that's trying to help too. And there's ways to say to that voice, could you stand down just for a minute? Or like, I understand that you're trying to help and I'm working on it. Or, like to kind of have a just sense of, solidness or self-love in that dynamic, in that cycle. It's very human. You certainly aren't that crazy if there's so many human beings that go through that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there probably isn't a human on the face of the earth that hasn't felt that at some point in time.
Right. Yes. It just seems to be like maybe it's a built-in mechanism for survival,
Mm.
I mean, yeah, like if you're feeling too overwhelmed and too crazy about like the emotional experience that you're having, and you don't know any other way, firefighter comes in, then the manager is coming in to like clean up the place and get things back in order. And there's always, it's important in that kind of way of looking at all of this is that there's a wounded person in there, a wounded child.
Mhm.
And that wounded one that feels very emotional and was hurt in the first place or suffering in some way. And that's good. Like that one client that was worried about abandonment and rejection. There's some kind of it was old wound, to just look at that and what's the best ways that how do I know when I am not abandoned? What ways can I remind myself that I'm not abandoned? And those could be tiny habits.
Grace, you bring so much wisdom, and I really appreciate how vulnerable you are with your journey and where you've been because that's relatable. You're relatable to people,
Thank
and to struggles is very admirable. Thank you for being so vulnerable.
you.
And
You're welcome.
and your comment of what you suggest or teach your clients that they have what it takes to eat in peace, I think that's a big confidence builder because sometimes people don't think that they have what it takes.
Yeah.
by talk a little bit more about that process.
Yeah. They really don't think they have what it takes, especially when they might have been suffering from it for a long time. Like they had trouble when they were 15 at the beginning, and then it started getting worse, and then they lost weight, and they did this, and then they did that. There's like a whole history of their experience with eating and food and body weight. So it looks to them that gives them proof that there's something wrong. They don't have it. It's missing. And so I think what an amazing concept and a way to question. That's where the Byron Katie work comes in. It's like if I have this experience, in my life at different times, does that really mean there's something broken? Or does it mean I'm a survivor, and I'm doing what I need to do, or to navigate life and to be here and work with emotions. And so I really think everyone does have what it takes. You have what it, you're just to be born and be alive in this world and be living. You've got it. I mean, what a idea to kind of like. It's really funny how we don't have that idea. I mean, I didn't for a long time either. I thought, wow, I don't know if I'm ever gonna get over this or whatever. And just very discouraged sometimes. But to realize, what if you questioned that belief that you don't have, something's missing here? I'm not enough. Is it true? Who would you be without that
Yeah.
story? Who would you be without that story? I mean, it was funny that we just use these experiences as proof that it's true, but that doesn't necessarily prove it's true. It might prove that it's true that I do have what it takes, that
Yeah.
I've worked.
Well, and what you're doing is you're flipping the script. You're flipping the
Yes.
narrative using tiny habits in a statement like
Yes.
that. You're flipping the script.
Yes, yes. And then if people kind of think, I don't, it's great because you can notice when that rises, and see what the mind was thinking that it assumed you don't have what it takes, and then question that, because it doesn't necessarily mean it's true. Yeah, you can flip it, you can turn it around. Yeah,
That's a powerful, powerful skill.
it is. I love just the awareness of self inquiry. You can inquire into your thoughts and not assume they are true.
Yeah,
It's
I love
amazing.
that.
Yeah.
Well, Grace, I know you teach workshops, and I also know that you have a course. I think your course is an 8-week course calling the eating what's it? Eating
Eating
Peace
Peace
Foundations? Is
Foundations. Yes, Eating Peace
tell
Foundations.
and how do I mean, I'm sure a lot of people listening are relating to what we're talking about and say, "Yeah, that's me. How do I overcome that?" Or how do I create the tiny habits to flip the script or to help myself know that I have what it takes? How would they
Yes,
get a hold of you or find out about some of those courses?
I love you asked. So, best way is to go to workwithgrace.com. It includes like the grace of life.
Yeah.
I happen to have that name, but
Yeah.
no, that's in there. Um, and in on there, usually anything that's I'm about to teach or anything that's coming up, there's quite a bit of information on the website, but it usually has on that homepage, when the next Eating Peace Foundations course is, or if sometimes I do a deeper dive course, and sometimes I have retreats. So I usually do a retreat in Seattle every year in the winter. And people come, that's for eating peace. So it's super fun. I really love it. Yeah. So that's how people
Well,
can find
and
me.
as we're talking, you just and when you reminded me that in one of our bi-monthly coaching session or sessions that we have, trainings for coaches that we have on a regular basis, BJ gave one of the tiny habit recipes. He named it the grace habit. Do you
I
remember that?
remember that. Yes.
And that's because you suggested a habit that people can give themselves more grace and be
Yes.
kinder to themselves. So you
Yeah.
really embody this.
Yeah. That's so sweet. Yes. I remember. That was great. Thank you.
That was really fun. And that really is true. You are a true example of helping
Mm,
us give ourselves more grace and do that
mm,
as a habit and to allow ourselves room to grow as a result. So I
yeah.
appreciate that example. As
Yeah.
we wrap up here, Grace, what takeaway or suggestion would you give people that are struggling with what we've talked about? What would you suggest for them?
Yeah. Well, I love the looking at any kind of stress that arises in somebody's life. Like, so it can be maybe your reaction to stress is not eating. And so anybody listening to this, it could be, and sometimes there's behaviors, there's other behaviors, But even it's just it could be like a other thought pattern that, kicks in when this kind of thing goes on, when something goes on that's, regular in your life and it feels uncomfortable. And it's just to know that's like sort of that's just to even to know that that's a habit. It's a thought
Mm,
habit is amazing. And it doesn't mean it's true. So it's kind of like, could I see this a different way? I think you said that at the very beginning. This looks like a weakness. What if there's something, if I can't quite say strength about it, what if there's something that's just interested in surviving and I can know I'm okay? Like, I'm okay right now. I'm okay right now. And sometimes there's such a rushing into a movement into I need to do something. People feel that way when they feel like super shy about groups or all the other things that people want to make changes about within themselves. I can't do public speaking, or whatever, too much fear. Just to sort of like it's possible for this to change. I guess it's back to I have what it takes. I might not be
yeah.
doing it yet. I might not be doing it yet, but there is an understanding, a deeper understanding here about how I'm fitting into life and it's solvable.
Well, Grace, you definitely have what it takes. And I can see how you've helped other people recognize and realize that they have what it takes as well. I'm just so grateful for your wisdom and for your willingness to share with us today. So thank you so much. And for those that are listening that want to work with Grace or find more out about Grace, go seek her out. Like I said, you've been part of our Tiny Habits Coach community for a while, and you've always brought so much beauty and grace to our community. And I'm just grateful for your perspective. So once
Thank
again,
you.
let's share with everybody how they could find you.
Workwithgrace.com. You can even just get on my mailing list if you want, send little things out. And yeah, I'm so grateful too. So thank you so much. And thank you for the opportunity and for the Tiny Habits community. It's great. It's awesome.
Thank you, Grace.